The conference hall shimmered under bright spotlights, buzzing with the chatter of Silicon Valley elites. Journalists clustered near the stage, cameras poised for the next viral soundbite. Richard Kane, billionaire tech CEO, famous for his smug wit and savage takedowns, stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he drawled, "today's charity event will have a little twist." He scanned the crowd, then pointed straight at a woman in a Navy bus driver's uniform, sitting quietly near the back. "You," he said, smirking. "What's your name?" "Maria Lopez," she answered, her voice steady. "Well, Maria," Richard continued, his tone dripping with mockery, "I hope you're ready, because I'm about to give you the kind of challenge my engineers at Kane Tech struggled with for days. Think you can handle something more complicated than parallel parking?" Laughter erupted. Phones came up instantly, recording the moment. The livestream chat lit up, "She's done for, CEO gonna roast her." Richard pulled out a sleek tablet. "Solve this AI logic puzzle in 10 minutes, no help, no phone. Do it and I'll personally donate $1 million to any cause you choose. Fail and, he gestured to the cameras, the world gets a little entertainment." Maria's brown eyes didn't flinch. She rose, walked toward the stage, and took the tablet from his hands without looking down at the puzzle. "You sure about the million?" she asked quietly. Richard's grin widened. "Absolutely. It's impossible." Maria smiled. "Good," she said, tapping the screen. "I like impossible. What happened next would make Richard Kane a global laughingstock and turn a bus driver into an American hero overnight." Maria Lopez didn't look like someone who belonged in a room filled with venture capitalists, celebrity entrepreneurs, and the newest AI prodigies. Her uniform still smelled faintly of diesel and rain from her early morning bus route through East Oakland. At 42, Maria had spent 2 decades behind the wheel of the city's 18 bus, the route nobody wanted. It wound through neighborhoods the city tried to forget, past boarded-up shops and graffiti-covered walls. She knew every pothole by memory, every regular passenger by name. But what none of her passengers, and certainly not Richard Kane, knew was that before life demanded she take the wheel, Maria had been on a completely different road. She had once been a computer science major at UC Berkeley. In her sophomore year, she was top of her algorithms class, beating even graduate students in logic competitions. Her dream? To work in AI before most people even knew what those 2 letters meant. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Her mother's diagnosis was aggressive, and the medical bills were crushing. Maria dropped out, took whatever job would pay quickly, and found herself driving a bus just for a year that turned into 20. Late at night, after double shifts, she still read about AI breakthroughs. Her laptop was so old the fan whined like a jet engine, but she devoured research papers, tinkered with open-source code, and kept her mind sharper than anyone suspected. The charity gala invitation had been a fluke. One of her passengers, an elderly librarian she often gave free rides, had an extra ticket and insisted Maria come, promising it would be a night to remember. Maria had planned to sit in the back, clap politely, and go home. She hadn't planned on being singled out by the most arrogant man in Silicon Valley. As she stood on stage, tablet in hand, Maria felt the weight of the room's skepticism pressing down. The camera zoomed in, capturing every wrinkle in her uniform, every bead of sweat on her brow. Richard Kane leaned into the mic, his voice a purr meant for humiliation. "Just so you know, my head engineer took 6 hours to get halfway through this." Maria met his gaze, calm and unshaken. "Then maybe," she said softly, "you should have hired a bus driver." The audience laughed, not with her, but at her. Richard smirked. The clock started ticking. The tablet screen lit up with a wall of cryptic symbols, shifting patterns and data strings. It wasn't just a puzzle. It was a custom Kane Tech prototype, designed to test AI reasoning through a mix of language, pattern recognition, and code breaking. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room as the live feed projected the problem onto 2 massive screens above the stage. Richard folded his arms. "Let's see, maybe she'll get to the tutorial level." Maria sat in the high-backed chair they'd set out for her. But she didn't touch the tablet immediately. Instead, she leaned forward, studying the interface. The crowd saw hesitation. What they didn't know was that she was mapping the entire problem in her mind, searching for weak points like a chess player scanning an opponent's board. 5 minutes left, Richard announced with a smug glance at the timer. Though barely a minute had passed, Maria finally began to type. Her fingers moved with surprising precision. No hunting for keys, no second-guessing. Lines of code appeared and vanished. She bypassed the flashy interface entirely, digging straight into the raw logic layer underneath. Richard's engineers, watching from the sidelines, frowned. Wait, did she patch the recursion loop? He whispered to another. On the live stream, chat comments began to shift. She's actually making progress? No way, this is staged. Look at Kane's face. Richard leaned over her shoulder, trying to mask the flicker of unease in his eyes. Careful, Maria. You're not on a city bus now. She didn't look up. And you're not as smart as you think you are. The crowd erupted with oohs, phones zoomed in. Clips would later explode across TikTok under the tag, "Bus driver burn." With 3 minutes left, the first chime rang. She had solved the first sequence. The engineers exchanged glances. That's actually faster than we did it, Richard laughed nervously, raising his voice to the audience. Beginner's luck. The last stage is impossible without deep AI training. Maria's brow furrowed, but she was already dismantling the second stage like she was peeling an orange. She spotted the pattern, an intentionally misleading loop, and rewrote the exit command in under a minute. 2 minutes left, the announcer's voice boomed. By now, half the crowd had their phones out, not to film Richard's victory, but to capture what was rapidly becoming his humiliation. The final sequence remained. Maria's eyes narrowed. She recognized it instantly. A puzzle published in a 2011 AI journal she'd read for fun during a night shift break. With 34 seconds left, her fingers danced over the keyboard. The screen flashed green. Puzzle complete. Silence. Then an explosion of cheers. Maria set the tablet down gently and stood. I believe, she said into the mic, you owe $1 million to the Oakland Public Library's tech literacy program. Richard's face went pale as the crowd roared. Somewhere in the back, his own engineer muttered, we've been cane-wrecked by a bus driver. What the cameras didn't catch yet, but would soon go viral, was the story behind why Maria chose that cause, and the fight that had brought her here. The MC tried to regain control of the stage over the roar of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, well, that was unexpected. Richard adjusted his suit jacket, forcing a strained smile for the cameras. But Maria had already stepped toward the microphone. I think, she said calmly, you all deserve to know why I'm here. The audience hushed. Even the live stream chat froze for a second. I wasn't always a bus driver, she began. I was a junior software engineer, fresh out of college, working on AI projects I thought could change the world. Then my mom got sick, real sick, and I had to make a choice, stay in the office or take care of her. Her voice wavered just slightly, but she didn't look away from the crowd. I left the career I'd worked my whole life for, took a job driving buses so I could work nights, be home during the day, and still pay for her treatments. I thought maybe that part of my life was over. Phones in the front row were filming, their owners leaning in. People in the audience who'd been skeptical were now stone-faced, listening. But when I heard this was for charity, and when I heard his comment about how a bus driver couldn't possibly understand AI, she glanced at Richard, whose jaw tightened. I thought about all the people who get dismissed every day, not because they aren't capable, but because someone decided their job, their clothes, their background, told the whole story. A ripple went through the crowd. I chose the Oakland Public Library's tech literacy program because when I was a kid, that's where I learned to code. They had old computers, donated books, volunteers who believed in us. That's where the spark started for me. And there are kids out there right now, just as talented, who will never get their shot if someone doesn't open the door. She turned back to Richard. You wanted to make this a game about who's smarter. I wanted to make it about who's willing to give someone a chance. The room exploded in applause. Even some of CaneTech's own employees stood and clapped. Richard's PR manager was frantically typing on his phone, but it was too late. Clips of Maria's speech were already hitting Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts with captions like, bus driver schools tech CEO, and it's beautiful. This woman just destroyed tech elitism on stage. Within hours, the hashtag driven by Maria began trending nationwide. The library's donation link, shown briefly on the event live stream, received over $1,200,000, 0 cents, in contributions in the next 24 hours. Later that night, sitting in her small kitchen with her mom watching the replay on an old tablet, Maria smiled. She'd won more than just a game. She'd flipped the script on every person who had ever looked at her uniform and seen less than. And somewhere, Richard Kane was learning the hard way that in the age of social media, arrogance is the fastest way to go viral, for all the wrong reasons. By the next morning, Maria's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Her niece burst into the kitchen holding up her iPad. "Aunt Maria, you're on the Today Show, look!" On the screen, clips from the competition were playing. Maria's calm problem-solving, Richard's smug expressions melting into shock, and finally, her heartfelt speech. The host was saying, "This is the bus driver who just taught America a lesson in humility and intelligence." By noon, every major news outlet had picked up the story. CNN ran the headline, "BUS drover outsmarts tech CEO in AI challenge. Donates winnings to library." Fox News called it the underdog story we all needed. And even tech blogs were writing about how Maria's victory exposed the dangerous elitism in Silicon Valley culture. The Oakland Public Library's tech literacy program went from near closure to having a 3-year budget fully funded in just 48 hours. Volunteers flooded in. Tech companies, eager to be on the right side of the viral wave, offered refurbished laptops, new software licenses, and free coding workshops for kids. Meanwhile, Richard Kane's PR nightmare was only getting worse. Clips of him smirking at Maria before the competition had become TikTok's newest meme format, paired with captions like, "When you underestimate the wrong person." POV, "You just got schooled by the bus driver." By day 3, Kane Tech's board of directors had released a public statement apologizing for comments made during a charity event that do not reflect our values. Rumors swirled about Richard being asked to step down as CEO, but Maria wasn't interested in his downfall. She was focused on the kids. She appeared on Good Morning America, sitting beside the head librarian, explaining her next move. "We're going to launch a national program, Driven to Learn, that partners with libraries in underserved communities to teach coding and AI basics for free. Because I know there's another kid out there like me who just needs someone to believe in them." Her sincerity resonated. Celebrities retweeted her. Oprah's team reached out. Within a week, she had been invited to give a TED Talk titled, "Why You Should Never Judge by the Uniform." Footage from the original competition kept circulating, but it was Maria's smile at the end, humble, relieved, and quietly victorious, that became the lasting image. It wasn't just a win over a CEO, it was proof that brilliance can be found anywhere, on a stage, in a lab, or even behind the wheel of a city bus. 3 months later, Maria stood in front of a crowd at the Oakland Library's brand new tech lab, surrounded by kids booting up laptops for the first time. Cameras flashed, and as she looked around, she realized something. The game she'd won wasn't the real victory. The real victory was here, in this room, with the next generation learning that they, too, could outthink anyone, no matter what the world assumed about them.